My name is Mia, and I'm 34 years old. 3 years ago, I married Matthew after we had dated for 2 years. However, we've been struggling to have children, and for the past 6 months, I've been feeling a disconnect between us. Matthew heads a company and is said to be the next president. Due to company gatherings I have to attend, he often stays out late at night after drinking parties. I believed that once we had a child, Matthew would change, so I turned a blind eye to certain things and continued with our life. Matthew's parents are very kind, especially my father-in-law, Kevin, who treats me like his own daughter. One day, while I was preparing dinner, I received a message from Matthew. "I've got a drinking party tonight, so I won't need dinner. Also, I'm not sure what time I'll be back." It was a typical and disappointing message from him. "Again? You did the same yesterday. Are you sure you're okay?" He had been out drinking with colleagues and came home late the night before. "Hey, are you being sarcastic? That needs to stop. I'm not just a carefree housewife." "Mia, what sarcasm? I didn't mean it like that. And yes, I am a housewife, but it's not like I'm just lounging around." "So what, you're busy then? It's not like you can be busy when we don't even have kids." There you go again, indirectly blaming me for us not having kids. Our conversations lately always end up like this. Eventually, Matthew indirectly blames me for the fact that we don't have children. It's the truth, isn't it? It's been 3 years since we got married, Mia. Isn't it strange that we don't have kids yet? But the tests showed there were no issues, and I think it's just about timing. Besides, your drinking parties have increased recently, and we don't have much time together, right? Can't we try to spend more time together? I mustered the courage to tell him that we should spend more time together for the sake of our future. It's true that we have less time together than before, but that's because I'm going to be the next president and I'm busy. You understand that, right? Yeah, I do understand. But when our lives are constantly passing like ships in the night, it makes me anxious. I see. Well, I get it. I'll try to make days when I can come home earlier from now on, but for today, I'll be late coming home. That's what he said, and he went to his drinking party, coming home close to dawn. He said he would make time, but I was still anxious about whether he was really considering it. One day, we got invited for dinner at Matthew's family home. Matthew seemed reluctant, but we decided to go together. While I was helping Matthew's mom, Emily, with meal preparation in the kitchen, I could hear Kevin and Matthew talking in the living room. "You seem busy lately, but you are coming home, right? What did Mia say? Something?" "Mia? No, I haven't heard anything from Mia. Is there something you want to talk about?" "Nothing." Matthew sounded panicked. "Why the sudden concern? Are you not coming home?" No, I do come home. It's just that I've been having a lot of drinking parties lately, and sometimes I come home late. I thought you might have heard about it from Mia." Don't talk about telling tales. All I've ever heard from Mia is that you're working hard and busy. Matthew seemed flustered, realizing he had revealed his late returns. "I've told you many times to take care of Mia. Come home immediately after work. And I don't think there are that many drinking parties at the company, are there? You know I dislike unnecessary drinking parties." Matthew looked even more troubled and glanced over to check if I was listening. I managed to avert my gaze just in time. "Kevin dislikes unnecessary drinking parties. He comes home right after work is done," Emily had said. I remembered that the number of company drinking parties was less than at other companies, as Matthew had mentioned when we first started dating. "I'm currently entrusted with a very important client. You might be the president, but you don't know everything, right?" Kevin nodded. "This client really likes drinking parties. I'm reluctantly attending for the company's sake." Matthew glanced at me again. I almost met his gaze. "Well, work is work. There might be enough unavoidable party, but if you don't cherish Mia, you will definitely be unhappy. Think about it carefully." "Yes, I understand," Matthew responded reluctantly. However, perhaps due to Kevin's words, Matthew started coming home earlier more frequently. We could have dinner together and started to have more time as a couple like before. I was very grateful to Kevin for speaking up. Then finally, one day, I suddenly felt unwell in the morning and decided to go to the hospital. The possibility of pregnancy was suggested and I underwent tests. To my surprise, I was pregnant. I was indeed pregnant. I was overjoyed. I immediately called Matthew to share the news. What's up? I'm busy at work. Sorry for calling suddenly. I just really wanted to tell you as soon as possible. What is it? I was so happy I couldn't contain myself. I wanted to tell you in person, but I couldn't wait until the evening. Listen, we're going to be a dad and mom, just as we've always wished. What do you mean? I'm pregnant. I went to the hospital today. I felt unwell this morning, so I went to the hospital. They suggested a pregnancy test, and it turns out I'm really pregnant. I spoke excitedly in one go. However, there was no response from the other end of the phone. Matthew, I'm listening. That's great news, but I'm really busy right now. We'll talk more tonight. I have to hang up. Sorry for bothering you when you're busy. I just wanted to let you know as soon as possible. Yes, let's talk more tonight. After hanging up, I was overwhelmed by an indescribable anxiety. He didn't say congratulations. Matthew wanted a child too, didn't he? There was an inescapable sense of unease. However, I couldn't wait. I was too excited about the long-awaited child. I was so happy and eagerly awaited Matthew's return to discuss our future. However, Matthew didn't come home until late at night. I'm home. Matthew was drunk. What, you've been drinking? So what if I have? Matthew's face clearly showed his annoyance. It's not about it being bad. I've been waiting all day to talk about the baby and other things. Oh, that. Aren't you happy? Of course I'm happy. It's our long-awaited pregnancy, isn't it? Then you should have come home early today to listen to what I have to say, coming home drunk like this. I spoke my mind. I wanted him to come home early and be happy for us. Matthew's attitude made me feel utterly disheartened. What, I came home early, didn't I? I could have stayed out all night, but I thought about Mia and came back early. Stayed out all night? Why would it suddenly be an overnight stay today? If you were thinking about me, you shouldn't have gone drinking and come home early enough already. Do you want a divorce then? We had argued before, but divorce had never been mentioned. I was shocked that Matthew suddenly brought up divorce. Divorce? That's not something you say when we've just received the news of having a child. That's true, Mia. You can't divorce me, can you? Your parents run a business too, but it's such a small company that it's barely enough for the two of them, right? My dad also runs a company, but as Matthew says, it's not a large company. It's true that Matthew's dad runs a bigger company. Why are you bringing up Dad's company? Because even if we divorce, Mia, you have nowhere to go. It doesn't seem profitable and it might be in trouble soon, right? That's not true. I've heard Dad's company is doing well. And how many times do I have to say it? Dad's company is not the issue right now. Doing well? That company? I was really angry at Matthew's words. Mia, you'd be in trouble if you divorced me. You know that, do you understand that? So whether I drink or come home late, you can't complain. And don't expect me to rely on you for the child. I have work. You know I'm going to be the next president, so I'm busy. Make sure you take care of everything. Matthew retorted. Feeling sick, I rushed off to the bathroom. I was left with tears of frustration. Why did he have to belittle my dad's company so much? Why couldn't he just say congratulations? He wanted a child too, didn't he? Raising a child together was what I truly wanted. I didn't want to worry my parents, especially my dad, who always fretted about me visiting home alone. Matthew, always citing work, had never once visited my parents' house with me since we got married. I decided to believe that once the baby was born, he would become more aware and concerned as a father. We pretended to forget the night he came home drunk and carried on. I thought so too, but Matthew's return home got later and later. It was as if we had reverted to the time before the pregnancy. I had hoped to enjoy our time together before the baby's arrival. But instead, we were back to barely speaking and him coming home late. Once, Kevin invited us shopping. When I announced my pregnancy, my in-laws were overjoyed. They kept checking on me, concerned about my health. Mia, how are you feeling? When I arrived at the meeting spot, Kevin immediately greeted me. Thank you, always. The baby and I are doing well. That's great to hear. We're looking forward to it. Today, we thought it would be good to get baby items. Don't worry about the luggage. Matthew and I are here. Kevin smiled kindly. Matthew seemed reluctant as usual. He had gone drinking the night before, returned home at dawn, but he couldn't refuse his dad's invitation. Shopping with the baby in mind was enjoyable, and before I knew it, our cart was full. Initially, Kevin offered to pay, but since he had bought the larger items before, we insisted on paying for these. I took the cart to the register. "How much would you like to pay?" "Without hesitation, by card, please," I replied. Then an unfamiliar sound echoed. "I'm sorry, but it seems this card can't be used." This had never happened before. In a panic, I called Matthew over. "I don't know why, but this card isn't working. Could you use your card for now?" Without a word, Matthew took out his card and paid. After paying, I asked Matthew, "Why can't this card be used? Your card was fine just now." Then an unbelievable response came from Matthew. "It's been canceled because we're divorced." Time seemed to stop. I was speechless. After a moment, I managed to respond. "Excuse me? You're joking, right?" "It's no joke. We're divorced. The divorce papers have already been filed." "Wait, I don't remember signing any divorce papers. Don't you remember that big fight we had? You signed the divorce papers I brought." Then Matthew's words jogged my memory. I recalled signing something during a heated argument early in our marriage. We had made up the next day. Reflecting on getting carried away, Kevin and Emily just stared at us in shock. "Remember now? I've kept it all this time." "I can't believe you've kept it all this time." I was on the verge of losing my mind with anger. But it was then that Kevin, who had been stunned into silence, finally spoke. "We're finished." Looking closely, I noticed Kevin was shaking. "Dad, are you okay? What do you mean, we're finished?" "You really filed those divorce papers?" Kevin's face was one of anger. "I did. They've been processed. Things haven't been going well between us for a while. Mia got pregnant during that time, but I just can't do it. Love once gone doesn't return." "You're trying to sound cool or something? Our baby is about to be born, you know." "That's true. But it can't be helped, can it? I don't feel love for you anymore, Mia. I'm sorry. To you too, Dad and Mom, but please understand my selfishness." Matthew's words left them speechless and appalled. I felt like my heart was about to burst from shock. I was worried about the impact this stress might have on my pregnancy. I asked Kevin to call me a taxi and decided to go home. Kevin was still pale. Matthew just silently watched me leave. Once home, I couldn't stop crying and didn't know what to do. I was stunned, unaware of how many hours had passed. Then my dad called. "Mia, are you okay? Where are you?" Dad sounded panicked. It seemed Kevin had contacted him. "I'm coming to pick you up now. Stay there. It's okay. Leave that guy to me." For a moment, I wasn't sure who he meant by that guy, but it must have been Matthew. Dad indeed came to pick me up right away, and I went back to my parents' house. As I spent time with Dad and Mom, I gradually began to regain my strength. At the same time, I realized that being with someone as terrible as Matthew, both for my child and myself, would only lead to unhappiness. I was furious about the divorce papers being filed without my consent, but if the divorce was already finalized, then so be it. My affection for Matthew had vanished to that extent. I didn't want to check whether I had received any messages from Matthew, so I kept my distance from my phone. Knowing this, Dad seemed to be communicating with Matthew's dad. From their exchanges, I learned about the facts that Matthew had been hiding. When Dad confronted me with the truth, any remaining affection for Matthew was gone. About a half month after returning home, I finally checked my phone. It was filled with messages and missed calls from Matthew. Noticing that I had seen the messages, he immediately called. I decided to answer the phone boldly. "Hello, is this Mia?" "Finally got through. What do you want? I don't want to talk to you." "Don't say that. I was really wrong that time. I was shocked and anxious when I suddenly heard you were pregnant. That's why I did what I did. I regret it now." Matthew started making excuses one after another. I was surprised to hear him say he regretted it. However, I had no intention of starting over. And let's start over. Let's submit a marriage certificate again. Let's raise the child together. Did you break up with your affair partner? My voice was colder than I expected. Did Dad tell you? I really am sorry. I regret it now. I've broken up with her. Matthew had been cheating since before I got pregnant. It was around the time I started feeling our paths diverging 6 months ago. His drinking parties were lies to meet her. She was a junior at the same company, and there were several photos as evidence. Worried about me, Dad had discreetly hired a detective. It was supposed to be a way to reassure me, I was told later. If we get married again, what about your job? You know about that too. I think I can go back to work if I can start over with you, Mia. Please help me. Apparently, Matthew's dad's company was not doing well. Matthew's dad, struggling with finances, had pleaded with my dad. Dad's company isn't large, but over the years, he has consistently done reliable work. That's why the job was continued without interruptions. Therefore, it had never run out of work and had a solid financial reserve. As a condition for lending the money, Dad had made a contract stating if Matthew ever betrays Mia, all rights to Matthew's dad's company will be transferred to Mia's dad. Of course, at the time, they didn't think Matthew would betray me, but it was all properly documented. Hearing this, I understood why Matthew's dad was so affectionate towards me. Of course, he wouldn't have thought his son would actually betray me. Matthew's dad was furious with Matthew for divorcing on his own accord, fired him from the company, and told him to leave the house. Matthew was trying to get back with me to avoid that. I have no intention of marrying you again. I will never forgive what you did. Cheating and hiding it, trying to leave me when I got pregnant, and filing for a divorce on your own. But I'm really sorry. It's pitiful for the child not to have a dad like you. I'll make sure you pay the child support and alimony. I have nowhere to go, no job. What am I supposed to do now? That's not my problem. Reflect on your own foolishness. I finally realized how important you are to me. Please don't abandon me. I immediately blocked Matthew's number. Matthew's dad had promised to ensure the alimony and child support would be paid. Since then, I've been living at my parents' house. I started working as an office clerk at Dad's company. My belly is growing, and I'm due next month. My parents, my colleagues, everyone is warm and supportive, and I'm glad to be back. Matthew's dad, acknowledging his son's betrayal in the contract with my dad, began preparations to transfer the company. However, Dad had no intention of taking over the company. The money has been repaid, and running 2 companies is impossible for me, he said, laughing. Matthew's dad was deeply grateful to my dad. Matthew, cut off by his family and fired from his job, is now juggling part-time jobs to get by. As for me, I'm focusing on enjoying my work and life with my child, hoping this happiness continues.